All right, so I want to tell a story of my broken, dysfunctional family and my life. It's not the worst story. It's not a great story. There's genuine heartache and sorrow and tragedy here, but we're living in this YouTube age. Everyone's got their stories out there. Some people have genuine rough stuff. There's somebody I whose videos I watch every once in a while, and she said her mom stabbed her in the face like years ago. So she wins. I've got a friend in my life whose story beats my story. So it's less about just trying to share the saddest shit and just more. My stuff's too sad to share with the casual person I know, but I know strangers on the internet tend to find other people who've been through some stuff, and then that feels good. So that's why I'm, sharing my story. I just want to put it out there, and if there's anybody else out there who's got some similar stuff, yeah, I don't know, hopefully there's something you can learn from my story, or maybe you'll comment and share your story. Who knows? Okay, I am currently 33 years old. I have to address some of my youth, and I'll try to skip that as much as possible just to cover the highlights. I grew up in a house with a single mom. My dad left when I was 6, and I have three sisters. And we're all very close in age. Growing, we were poor growing up. Uh, the rent wasn't always paid. The utilities were off. Um, that was a somewhat regular occurrence. There wouldn't be heat, there wouldn't be hot water, there wouldn't be electricity. We didn't always have food in the house. Um, there were things that kind of like supplemented that. I think there were some churches we were members of who we can get some some food from sometimes. My mom was on welfare, so we did get food stamps, but still by the end of the month that can run out, and your fridge looks like celery and peanut butter, and you've got a box of powdered milk in a cupboard somewhere, and some old Cheerios. So a family of 5 people, that the last week of the month can look like that. It's rough. You go into school and you haven't taken a shower in a week because your mom can't afford the to pay for water for 4 kids. You're wearing 2 pairs of pants for a few years. They get holes in them. It's hard to even compete in popularity at middle school and high school, and your family's like that. So it was rough. And it's from some perspectives, our dad kind of followed the deadbeat route, but he wasn't straight. Like, he wasn't like a bad person. I think his life was a little tricky to navigate too. He had epilepsy, so late in life he told me that was the reason. He left because he couldn't hold a job down. And he felt embarrassed, and I didn't know he had epilepsy. We'd seen it a few times, and so from this one perspective, I look at my mom as. Kind of a victim, not a victim of, not of just life situations, like, being poor, raising 4 kids on your own, having a spouse that can't help, and then leaves because he's embarrassed of it. Like, the heartache, I couldn't do it. I just straight up couldn't do it. She doesn't look like a hero by the end of the story, but 100%, part of the reason she had I will not, she stuck around. She got her way through college. She got and she ended up becoming a teacher, and get they don't pay for teachers shit, by the way. So even after all that, like, we jumped a level from really poor from really really poor to just really poor. But anyway, so our house was pretty emotionally explosive and volatile a lot, and it didn't seem too strange to me. We would watch shows like Malcolm in the Middle or Everybody Loves Raymond, and the moms on those shows are also kind of like heated or whatever. And of course, every kid thinks their parents are strict or and stuff like that. And our mom, up to boot, was also very religious, and so she would have the moral authority of God to enforce her strictness, and not everything made sense. But it was whatever. At that age, when you between like, I don't know, 8 and 17, I was very ignorant to what was really going on. I mean, it's hard to say ignorant even because well, let me phrase it this way. I ultimately now, at the age of 33, believe she has been living her whole life with an undiagnosed personality disorder. Surprise, surprise! Like, we live in that day and age where people are retroactively diagnosing everybody. But it wasn't when I was a kid, which is the '90s and early 2000s. Like there was no knowledge of that stuff at all. And really, I mean, I think for the most part, your parents were just strict or mean or assholes, and it wasn't a unique story. Everyone like had some reason why they or hated their parents, because every kid does, so even from my perspective, it was tough to spot what was going on. It wasn't until like I was 17, and later, really much later, but when I was 17, my sisters were telling me stories about how our mom was lying to them or about them or screwing them out of stuff, and I had been at the hand of that a little bit, but from my mind, I was genuinely I thought I was a sincere amalgamation of events. But then I go off to college, and then there's a couple more. Some things happen between me and my mom, and our relationship started getting rocky, and some of the stuff started to like get. It was really dark, and now I'm in this spot where it's like she doesn't really have the excuse of poverty anymore, and she's not really paying, supporting kids financially. So now she's just this person who's attitudey and volatile and aggressive and willing to really emotionally hurt you, and I'm not understanding why. And I'm from I'd say from like 19 to 25, I'm just desperately looking for some reasons to make it make sense. And there's points of time where I didn't talk to her. I'll share a story. Just to give a little bit of credence to why I'm saying this. When I was, I think, 20, I was a student in college, and my grandmother had died, and she's on my dad's side, and we didn't. They always sent us Christmas cards, but I think really we saw them for maybe a couple days every couple years. We really didn't keep it. Our family just did not keep in touch with a lot of our family. Extended. My grandma died, and like I said, getting to a $20 card for Christmas every year when you're a really poor kid from your grandma or your grandparents, and every time you see them, they're just like the sweetest to you. Like it's still, I didn't have much of a relationship with her, but yeah, I was really really sad, and I was 20 years old. I didn't have I was in college. I had a car, but my car was just not seaworthy. Really wasn't going to drive from where I lived to where my grandmother would lived. And I call my mom up because I just had this assumption like, oh, someone in our family died. We're absolutely going to the funeral. And I was asking her if there's plans, and she's like, well, my mom was on vacation visiting her dad in a state that was twice as far as where I was. And she really did not want to go, and I was just like, just desperate. Anyways, that turned into a 3-day conversation, like not consecutively, but we never, I was really trying to get her to go. I was really trying because I was really trying to hitch a ride with her, and that blew up. And she so badly did not want to go to this thing that she just started cutting me down as a person. She said I wasn't a real man. She said I was a coward. And these aren't like significant insults, but from the perspective, your grandma died, and you just want to go to her funeral and pay her respects, and your mom is now like, in order to get you to shut up, she is just going to attack your psyche like that. It was too much, and so I stopped talking to her at that point in time. I got an internship, I graduated college, I got a real job. Then we started like talking again. She kind of gave an apology. I could tell she didn't feel it, but she gave an apology. She's like, okay, that's good enough for me. And then the rest of my 20s was really, so I've got 3 sisters who are now also in their 20s. Everyone's going off on their own journeys in life, and like the entirety of my 20s, all of us had moments like that with her where it's like, that doesn't make sense, that's really hurtful, and we wouldn't talk to her for X amount of time. So there's just that. And then I think by the time I was 25, I had a friend who told me his mom had bipolar disorder, but she was diagnosed when he was 12, and their whole family would go to therapy. And the therapy was, it was for the mom a little, but it was really more for the family on how to deal with her, which is a weird way to say it, but you got to be coached on how not to take things personally when you realize the person who's hurting you may be suffering from something, or viewing the world through some sort of prism that makes them act that way. So I had that, kind of revelation when I was 25, like, okay, she might have a personality disorder, and it helped me a lot in terms of like dealing with her and not taking her stuff personally. Now this person who raised me, who's twice my age, when she's being mean, I'm not taking it as the full force of an authority figure in my life casting an indictment on my character as much. Even though it seems that way, I'm now telling myself, oh, this is somebody who's stunted emotionally, who's having a tantrum. I'm going to handle it. And that worked a lot. Usually, once you're kind of aware of that, you can kind of like put the toddler for a nap, become some Capri Sun, and metaphorically, a huge part of dealing with it is just de-escalating. And so that was working for a bit. And I spent the next X amount of years, like whenever my sisters would have like fly off the handle about something our mom did, I would try and coach them, like, hey, don't take it personally. Like evaluate the actual effect. Just whatever. And they really couldn't get a handle on it, and that's whatever. I just thought that was what my life was going to be. Um, Now let's fast forward a bit. Um, so when I was, I think it was 2018, so I was 30. Well, I guess 29, 30. I found out my oldest sister. So I guess I'll do a little caveat here. My sisters struggled in their 20s, all of them. They're all okay now, but there were times where one was kind of homeless. All of them were unemployed for stretches of time. One was married, and then I don't want to put her shit out there, but she ruined her wedding or her marriage, and she was just for most of her 20s she was really not able to support herself financially while having a job. Something you got to remember is like if in the event our mother really does have something diagnosed, which once we get through the story, like yes, she does. She's not diagnosed, but it's pretty clear. The second thing you gotta wake up to is that like she raised us. The stuff that we spent most of our life with normalizing, like there's a lot of unhealthy behavior that we just thought was okay just because the person who raised us was like that all the time. Then you go out into reality and you're like, that's not it. You find out that's not okay. So even if in your situation with your parent, if they're objectively the unhealthy one, they raised you. You always have to have like genuine, serious introspection to evaluate your behavior and where it comes from, and you have to admit this. Like you have to acknowledge when you're the bad guy in a situation because you have to find that shit in yourself and clean it. You gotta spit that poison out. Anyway, so let's fast forward. So we all, me and all my siblings have always had just a contentious relationship with our mom. Like no one's ever really been buddy buddy with her. The best is like it's amicable. You can have some friendly moments, but then like she'll get passive aggressive. She'll start like throwing like these jabs at you, which she'll try to pretend are like fun or whatever. But she's clearly just trying to take you down. Anyway, so my oldest sister, the one, she's the one she was never really able to support herself. Like she had a job, but she couldn't pay for her own car. She couldn't pay for her own rent. She's usually been living with a family member. For a time, she was married, and then like I said, she ruined that. And Anyway, she gets knocked up, and she finds out like on month 6 or 7, and so it's like she's got to have these kids now. But she wanted it. At first, she was scared because she was never responsible enough for that. But then she wanted them. So what we decided as a family was that she was going to move in with our mom, who lived near me, and then her support system was going to be our mom and me. And we didn't know how severe our mom's stuff was. She had raised us, so it didn't seem like that far of a stretch. You got to think for family, you want to have some place you can fall back on, and my sister is now starting a family by herself, so she's got a rough road ahead of her. So she moved in with my mom. She gave birth to twins in like February 2018, and then we had to figure it out because our mom still not somebody who ever figured out her finances. Like she could pay her rent and her car, but she has a mountain of debt, and yeah, she relies on people to supplement her income. She gives her stop story of people in her life, and she has a network of people that she can reach out to for financial assistance from time to time. Which not to knock her, I think everyone should have that, but that's part of how she survives. It's built into her. It's not like she that's like the break glass for emergencies. It's part of how she survives. So my sister is she just gave birth to twins. She can't get a job, and my mom cannot afford the rent of the place that they're staying in. So for several months I'm paying $500 a month for their rent, and I'm also covering their groceries. And then my mom starts like complaining to me that my sister, who just gave birth to twins as a single mom, doesn't have a job. And I I started to tell her like cool down, like everyone 3 months, right? That's what job job will give you 3 months. Like give her some time, let her figure this shit out, and then she can start getting a job. Which even I still feel is like, like single mom of twins, going from 0 to 2 by yourself. Like, I obviously it's demanding for her for me to get $500 a month to enable her to survive, but also like what a tough spot to be in. So anyway, that's just the first. It's essentially, so eventually my sister 3 months in does get a job, but my mom keeps complaining about everything, and she's picking fights with my sister, and my sister is like, she grew up in that household. She knows how to fight too. So that becomes a really tumultuous household, and that goes on for like a while. So that's in 2018. You fast forward a bit in 2018, and at this point in time, like I've got my job, and I'm also trying to get like a band off the ground. I've got a hobby, and that costs money. Recording costs money. Promoting your music costs money, and so I got my life to a point where I'm able to totally pay for my life. And pay for my hobby, and it's not costing anybody. In order to achieve my dreams, I'm not I'm not routing PA or PayPal. This is all my own stuff. I feel safe doing this. I feel like this is okay. I'm at the green light. But now my sister's in a spot where she needs help, and so $500 a month isn't nothing. 200 for rent, and then 250 for groceries a month isn't nothing. And then at a certain point, I was trying to get them to go to therapy because the house is blowing up. Like they were just fighting all the time, and they were both calling me, and it was too much for me to handle. I didn't have the mental fortitude to like. My mom's threatening. She's calling me, threatening to kick my sister out, and my sister's calling me, threatening to leave. And I'm like, I'm super well aware that my sister couldn't afford to leave. She couldn't afford to whatever. And I'm just nervous for her babies. I'm like, what? Like, it's just scaring the shit out of me. So, I was, man, this just sucked so much. So we went to a therapist 3 times, and she charged us $200 a session, and she stopped responding. And I asked my primary care physician for a reference for like a therapy for the situation I was in. I reached out to them. They said, I told them the situation. I broke it down, and the lady was like, "Yeah, totally." She's like, "We don't normally have people, call for therapy for adults." Other adults, So in order to take this, I would like to interview those people. So she interviewed my mom and my sister over a phone call, and she called me and left a voicemail, and she said, "I don't feel qualified to take on your situation," and that's it. She said, "Sorry, bye." And I called back. She wouldn't answer my calls. This lady, she wouldn't even recommend somebody else. And I'm just sitting here like just feeling so fucking helpless. So for all intents and purposes, I am the mediator as well as like the financial person behind this. And my life is just like crumbling. I can't. I'm emotionally stressed. I can't take it. And I'm also financially stressed. And so I come up with a nifty idea of like, well, why? How about this? Why don't I buy a house? I'm like, I'll buy a house, and my mom and my sister will live in it, and my mom can help. Just like the amount that she's paying for rent right now could go towards the mortgage, and in fact, a house where we're splitting the mortgage would be cheaper for both of us. Everyone's paid for it. It covers all our financial needs, and I'm not, and I don't have to cheapen my. I don't have to threaten the finances that are funding my dream. And so I pitched that idea to them, and they go with it. And we spent 3 months looking for a house. Maybe it was 2 months, but at first we had a sit down. We talked about all the criteria of what we need. We talked about the location. We talked about the price, and we settled on a plan. And then we start getting into it, and then like a few weeks in, my mom totally changes everything that was in her criteria for what we need. And it's like, okay, sure, we can do this. So we changed it a little bit, still within the rounds, and we go another couple weeks, and then she changes it again, and now it's not making sense. Now it's like no house is doable, and it's like, listen, there are X amount of houses available in this area. There are even less that fit our criteria. And now you're being very picky about things that are really easily fixable, and it seems like now you're shooting this stuff in the foot. And I confronted her about it, and that turned into kind of an argument. And I was like, "Listen, I'm like, this is like the houses we've all agreed to, like we're looking at and we're going with that, or we're not doing this anymore." And I'm like, and I put it out there. I was like, "No, if we don't do this house thing, I'm not going to support you guys anymore. I can't afford 750 a month." Between rent and groceries to help you out. And so she was too prideful to change, and so she opted for that option. And but it was okay because at that point in time, my sister had a job, and it was paying well, and she was able to actually even afford a nanny. Her life sucked. She had two kids. Most of her income is going towards rent and her nanny. And granted, she's still living with my mom at this point, so her rent's not that bad. But still, the area we live in is not cheap. And yeah, it was hard. So I eventually, at that point in time, I'm no longer supporting them financially, and they're on their own, but they're okay. I mean, but it's still tumultuous. They still don't get along very well, and they're still kind of both to blame. So we fast forward a year, and eventually, my mom kicks my sister out, and so she takes her kids and she moves back to where she used to live, in a state near where my dad's side of the family is from, and it's a more affordable state. But she was still struggling. She had to go up there. She had to, she was able to secure uh, an apartment, but not a job. She moves up there with a little money and no job, and it took her a while to get on her feet. And then, my mom went up to visit to drop her stuff off and visit her, and then she comes back, um, and yeah, I don't know. I kind of got to take a pause because I'm about to introduce a part of the story where my mom's credibility comes into play, and so uh, she came back and suggested that the girls, my sister's daughters, were being neglected and were in danger, just by virtue of neglect, and that didn't make sense to me. Just I had seen my sister, over the past 2 years with her kids, and between her and my mom, it was very clear my sister had a way better sense of how to take care of babies than my mom did. I would say my mom's lack of awareness and stuff was, I would say that was like negligent. Like, and she just seemed to, yeah, just really ignorant to how ignorant she was. And so she's got this story, and I'm not buying it. And it's not just because of what I've seen, like relying on experience. I had found out. So earlier in this video, I had said when I was 17, my sisters had kind of told me, my mom had lied to them about stuff, and I kind of set them up or manipulated them a bit. I heard that. I never seen it. I never put two and two together myself at a young age. But this year, we fast forward. So the year I'm talking about, when my sister moves out, is late 2019. That year, I had actually had an opportunity to talk to a relative who is older than my mom. She's one of my, yeah, it's like my mom's aunt. But she's like my aunt too, but it's like, whatever. It's this how the family goes. But she's officially my mom's aunt. So I guess she's my great aunt. And my mom, when I was young, around the age of 17, had told me a story about this same sister, who at that point in time was, living with this same aunt. And my mom told me a horrible story about how terrible my sister was to this person. So now I'm talking to this aunt, and I'm just kind of explaining the situation as to why my mom kicked my sister out of the house, and I was like, how she can be. You lived with her too, right? And I remember this situation happened, and I explained to her situation that my mom told me happened. That paints my sister in a bad light. And she essentially, my mom had told me when I was 17, and my sister was living with this aunt, that my sister had stolen from her, and that aunt kicked her out of the house. And I share that story with this aunt, I don't know, 11 years later, 12 years later, my aunt's like, that never happened. She's like, your sister was good. She's lovely company. She kept to herself. She got a job. She was no issue at all. And I'm now so this revelation happens about a month before. This revelation where I find out my mom a decade ago had told me a heinous lie about my sister being this bad person. A decade later, I find out that's a lie. A month after that, my mom's telling me that my sister is being dangerously negligent with her children, and that just does not line up with my experience with how I've seen my sister raise raise her kids. Um, like a month later, my sister calls me up crying, saying that CPS had knocked on her door because our mom had called CPS. And I was like, oh shit, 'cause I know where this is going. My mom's trying to get custody of my sister's kids. And then like a month later, she's served. And my sister calls me again, crying, saying she's been like she now has to like the state the state is Child Protective Services are giving her kids a lawyer to represent the health of the lawyer, and now she's got to go to court to fight to just keep her kids. Um, and like she's struggling just to like she's I think she at this point just got a job, but she's like 2 months in to have looking for a job. Money is stretched thin. She'd hit me up for $40 here and there for macaroni and cheese or whatever. And so she's just devastated. And it hurt me, and it hurt me that my mom would do this. And like that's just going too fucking. That's just going too far. I wouldn't understand if my sister had done the things that she was accused of. And to this day, I can't say that I saw there and saw that it didn't happen. But what I've got is that I happen to know my mom is capable of lying, and I happen to like having seen what I've seen with my sister. I don't think she fits the lie of what happened. And so in 2020, I tell my sister like, hey, listen, I'm gonna wire you $2,500. You're gonna get a lawyer. You're gonna pay for the bills you got, and we're gonna fight this. We're not gonna go down swinging. And so that sucked right there because instantly now people kind of gotta pick sides. I've got two other sisters who know who my mom could be, but also like I said, uh, oh, so I've got two other sisters, and at this point in time, um, my mom is she's genuinely trying to get custody of my kids. She's raised a case, not my kids, my sister's kids. She's raised a case with Child Protective Services, and she's trying. So there's two parts to this. One is to get the kids out of that household. The second part is to get for her to get custody of those kids. Now, there's a part you don't know, and this is a motive building thing, but like when you have kids, you get more income tax in your refund. So my sister, the year she lived she was lived with my mom for 2 years, and the first year that she was there, that she that had kids and a job, and then she was able to get like an income tax refund. It was a substantial amount of money, and my mom was trying to get that money. She's like, well, I deserve some of that. I've been paying for it. And like the other perspective is like, well, that's her fucking refund, and she's a mom of two kids. Like, why don't you let her use that? But my mom, like, she's been poor her whole life. She never figured money out. She's instantly sees that. So there's one thing. Yeah, and just for trying to understand the motive as to why she could do that. Not that I could say that it is, but like that. But that's what it looked like. Anyway, fast forward a few months. Um, our grandfather, our dad's dad, he was 80. He had diabetes. He had cancer. He had two surgeries in the past 6 months. In May of 2020, he ends up passing away. It's not an overnight thing. So my sister was really close to them because for several years, like they lived together. He supported her, and she could be a tough person to get along with, but he was in his 70s. He's alone. He's got his retirement money. Like I think he appreciated the company. They loved each other. I'll leave that there. But so anyway, so now we're in 2020. Before the year, he dies in May of 2020. But my sister moved up to where he was at in I think October of 2019, she's now there with babies, and so he gets to you know meet her at this point in her life where she's not one person, she's three people. And I think they connect weekly for dinners or she has her own apartment, she's got kids, she's got a job, and she makes a point to just check on this guy every once in a while. That's about all that she's got. So in May 2020, yeah, he passes away, and in the hospital. He goes to he calls my sister up. He's not feeling well. She tells him to call an ambulance. They come. They don't pick him up immediately because they're like, it's COVID right now. You actually seem to be okay. I'm not sure what's going on, but why don't you write this out? The next day, he calls his primary care physician. The primary care physician is like, call the ambulance again. You just go. And so he calls again. That day, that day they take him despite everything. And a week later, he dies in hospice care. My mom, not being in that state, being like 7 states away, not she hadn't been up there in months. instantly hears the news and starts telling people in our family that our sister killed him, and just like that, and then people in our family are instantly pushing back because like they know her, like she the way she is with us, she's like the family knows she's surrounded with drama. I go back to like it's only been the past 10 years I think labels and diagnoses or diagnoses are being kind of common term. Back in the day, you were just an asshole or a socially awkward person or dramatic or a drama queen or whatever, but you could still be a normal person. But she was problematic, and she's really good, especially like using being a religious person. Like that's really powerful, manipulative stuff to be able to like invoke the moral authority of God as to why you're right. That works. That genuinely works on people. If you are constantly selling yourself as the very religious person, it does keep people away from questioning your morals. So people had constantly been at odds with our mom, but I just think she was effectively manipulating them. Anyway, they're at this point. She's telling people in her family that our sister killed our grandfather, and people aren't really having it. They're pushing back, but still trying to understand. Like, what do you mean? What are you trying to get at? And so eventually she was whittled down from her story because she's had multiple stories of this. She was eventually whittled down from like willful, malicious setting it up to then maybe just negligence. And even like our sister wasn't responsible for our grandfather, and she wasn't even his only family in the area. Like our dad lived in that area, So like, and yeah, so I don't know. It's just a weird thing. But so show, and then when we came to her defense, then we got looped into the story. And then our mom was pitching the story that we had all, been into. We all either planned this, or were protecting our sister out of some desire for inheritance. So that just fucking sucked, man. Like this. So we eventually got past that. The case, my sister got to keep her kids. The case was like, I think she withdrew it, but she ended up making herself look crazy because she started calling up the lawyers for CPS, and my sister's lawyers trying to tell them that my sister was a murderer and like there was charges against her. Like so she's like she's playing fast and loose with her crazy stuff. Um, but yeah, that fucking so I did like I, I know at this point in time I have two alive parents, but I don't have any parents. I don't have any, they're not, yeah. So I just have me and my sisters, and it just sucked. And so we spent like a year just trying to figure stuff out. And there was a lot of healing, there's a lot of whatever, and we had conversations about what truth is because we realized we found ourselves in situations where our mom was lying, and you don't want to just be somebody who picks sides over your gut. You want to know. You want to know the truth. You want to know when you're being lied to. And so we had a lot of great conversations like that. And we started healing and started working on ourselves. But what you can't forget is that we were still raised by her. I'm not sure this stuff passes genetically. I've been watching so much shit on YouTube and reading articles and forums and blogs, and sometimes I come across something that's like really exciting in terms of how much they know about the human psyche, and sometimes I realize they don't know very much, or that there are people on YouTube who are just like, kind of being opportunistic about fame for if you have a YouTube video about narcissism, it seems like in this day and age you're probably going to be able to squeeze some views out of it. And so like you kind of gotta be careful about what you're watching. I found myself in situations where I watch people put contradictory information out there where they're like, the narcissist always does this, and then they'll say the empath will do this, and they'll say like the same shit. It's like, well, how the fuck do I know who I am? But so I don't know if it passes genetically. I guess, sorry to get back to what I'm getting. I don't know if it passes genetically or if it's just learned behavior. But I'm very well aware. I've caught toxic behaviors in myself, and I've caught myself even holding on to those toxic behaviors. It is tricky to move away from them. Anyway, all I'll get to add to it, because that's most of the rough story. I caught some toxic behavior in one of my sisters. I caught her lying to not. I'm not gonna identify which sister it was, but it wasn't the one we were talking. It wasn't the one with the kids. But I caught the sister lying to maliciously defame somebody else that we knew, that we were just in a situation with, and it wasn't just like because this person was getting fucked over. This person and this person's spouse recorded a conversation with my sister, and they brought it to me, and she was lying. She was saying that I had told her things in order to make this person look bad. And so I confronted her about it, and she my I don't know. I'm not sure how to phrase how I think, but if I get caught doing something, and it's like I really caught, I think once the jig's up, the jig's up, right? And that's kind of what I was expecting. And it didn't have to be a big thing. Be like, listen, the way I thought it was gonna go is like, you know, listen, we were raised by somebody who did this stuff. We acknowledge that that person hurts people, and we acknowledge we don't want to be that way. And so it's important that we acknowledge when we do that stuff so we can fix it. And I thought it was just gonna be like that, and it would be another avenue for us to grow and whatever. And that's not how this went. This person, my sister, and I didn't see this coming at all, denied every bit of it. She did the recording, just denied it. I'm lying, like, and it blew my fucking mind. And here's what was even worse was like she was. I've effectively been kind of cut out of my family because she was able to get our other younger sister to believe her, despite the evidence, despite these people that we know that they've met that they can talk to. And so now all I got, it's I don't have any parents, and two of my three sisters are like just not talking to me just because I confronted the one who lied about lying. And then the other one, and here's what's crazy: I've helped all of them. Like the story I've been telling about me helping me that one sister. Like we didn't have a dad. Our mom never figured finances out. I was the first one to graduate college. I was the first one to get a job. I helped them. I wanted to help. I realized our situation was tough, and I wanted to help them. And I've helped them all out with cars and to the tune of a few $1,000s each. And so I just definitely thought I wouldn't be my sincerity wouldn't be questioned. But my sister, the one that I confronted about lying, was able to get my other sister, my younger sister, to believe her wholeheartedly, and even suggest that I'm making up this lie as some sort of power seeking thing. And the only sister I had left was the one who I had helped out, with my mom and the lawyer and stuff like that. And I had a conversation with her recently, and she seems to be like, it seems like the sister who lied is now getting this other sister to like come over to her side. And it's like, I haven't talked to those two little sisters and since shit happened a few months ago, and I don't know. So I don't know if I have to talk about this. So I think our mom has a personality disorder. I think her all four of us kids were raised by her. We may have toxic traits, and I think my one sister who lied and who I confronted about lying and who is now, trying like working to get my other sisters against me, which wasn't what I think she's a narcissist. She's definitely fitting the model, right down to like the getting the was it the flying monkeys they call, and the lying and the triangulation, and it's this weird thing because like I've done research on what narcissism is and why I think it happens, and there are some people who think it happens. So if you there's a therapist named Richard Grant, I think he's a therapist. He's got a channel where I think some of his stuff is badass. His name is Richard Grandin, and he suggested that like narcissism, it comes from complex post-traumatic stress disorder during like formative ages of like 2 to 4, where you're supposed to be I think developing your superego, which regulates your ego from your id. And so and then I've seen some stuff that suggests that narcissists are incredibly insecure and have a lot of anxiety, and the confidence is a fake bravado, and they need that because it's part of their calculation for how to get people to believe the reality that they want to exist in. And so part of me is like, I've been trying to understand the situation. Part of me desperately wants to help. I want my family back, and part of me also wants to help my sister that I think has this disorder, or at least she's got strong tendencies on the narcissism spectrum. And ultimately, I'd also even love to have get my mom to get help. But now I'm also seeing stuff online where they're like, no, it's a lost cause. They're broken, And I'm not sure if that's true. I have no idea. It could be. So far, nothing is working. So far, these people are counterpunching and they're not quitting. So I don't know. The reason I'm saying this is like, you can't just talk. This is a really long, complex story, and it's also like sad and dark. and I just you can't just like talk to people casually about that. But I've been enveloped in that entirely for a few years. Um, so I don't know. I desperately need to talk to somebody about it. I did talk to a therapist. Like I got BetterHelp, that app. I talked to somebody for 4 weeks, and it was nice. The person pretty much just validated me. Which genuinely actually concerned me a little bit. Like there wasn't any proof. I could have been lying. Like there was no proof to what I said. Like I'm sure I talked. I'm talking. I spoke as reasonably to her as I am now. And all she can do is take my word for it. But it concerned me because my sister, who did this shit, could also go to a therapist and also get pay somebody $90 an hour to tell her she's right. So that's what it kind of felt like to me. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I don't understand. But like I said, I couldn't talk to anybody about it. I wanted to get my story out. I want people to know, but also I don't want to out my sister because I kind of think if they're right about narcissism and that like they're acting out of this giant insecurity, then I don't want to make her feel like she's going to be thrown away by people, despite the fact that she's thrown me away. But then there's a YouTuber. I think his channel is called Mental Healness. I think he's got he's diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, and he's going to like psychotherapy, and he creates online content um, for understanding the inside workings of the minds of people with narcissism, and he seems to be very unforgiving towards them. Like, I'm not trying to cast him a mean light because he is one. He's trying to look out for us, the rest of us. And the whole idea of like loving the narcissism out of him, he shoots that right down. He's like, that's not how it works. They'll screw you over. They take that as weakness, and so I just don't know what to do, man. I'm not trying to like out my sister's business, but I also don't really know like how to go through life and like I've been a good person. I went to college. I helped my family out. I donate. And I've lost my whole family. I've helped all of them out, and they threw me away. I don't fuck. I mean, I say whole family. Like it's just my sister. This is my two. It's my mom. I don't. My dad's not in my life. We don't speak to our mom anymore after she like accused us all of killing our grandpa. Um, and then it's all I had left of my immediate family was my three sisters, and two aren't talking to me, and one is on the way to that, from what I can see. And So I've got aunts and uncles out there who've stressed to me like to always reach out to them and that they love me, but I'm not close with them. Growing up, we might see them once every couple of years for a couple of days at a time. It wasn't like they lived on the street. We don't. So I feel like I'm a good person who lost everybody, and I don't, so yeah, sure. The answer to that is go meet new people, go make connections. But what's at the forefront of my fucking mind is this just terrible heartache, and you just can't you can't just talk to people with this shit. You can't just start off with this. You ask how what's their favorite music. Have they seen any movies lately? I don't know. If there's anything from this story that helped out at all, I hope it did. And yeah, thanks for listening.